that's the case, we want to work with 60 cows. How much land would I need, or how much would be the equipment cost, quotas cost to start a bare 60 cow operation? How much would all of that conclude to, right? Looking at a few numbers, the land cost. Now, each cow typically requires about an acre to acre and a half of the land. For 60 cows, we're looking at around 60 to 90 acres of the land. In Ontario specifically, we're ranging from 8,000 to 15,000 per acre. The total cost of the land itself is anywhere up to 500,000 to $1.3 million. Now, equipment and infrastructure cost, that's a major one as well. Barn construction, it takes a lot of the cost in itself when you're trying to implement a barn or a stable for the cows. You're looking at around 100 to 120 feet square foot for per cow, and for 60 cow operation, that's around 6,000 to 7,200 square foot. Estimates range from $100 to $200 per square foot, totaling it to around 600,000 to a 1.4 million operation. Milking equipment is also not cheap. You're looking at, for 60 cow herd, you're looking at around $100,000 to $200,000 in investments. Then we have feed, storage, and handling. That's another 50,000 to 100,000. Your bunkers, your soilers, where you need to store the feed. Then we have manure management. That itself, to handle the manure, you'll need to have storage and spreading the equipment. It can range anywhere up to 50 to 150,000. Now, comparing that to the quota. Quota in Ontario, as you mentioned, that's around $30,000. The recent cap that we have on Ontario, we see $24,000 per kilogram of butter fat per day. For that requirement for a cow to produce, let's say, 1.2 kilograms of butter fat per day, and if you have 60 cows, that's going to be around 72 kilograms of butter fat per day. That total itself will accommodate or accumulate to around $1.7 million. That's even more than the land cost, even more than the equipment and infrastructure cost. So you can look at this as if land aside, infrastructure aside, I still have quota to do. So before even you look at the land and the infrastructure, you'll first have to look at the quota, that if you have the funding in place for the quota itself. The cows itself, they are ranging anywhere up to $2,000, $3,000 each, and the total cost would come up to be $120,000 to $180,000, being the total expense of the operation coming up anywhere between $3.2 million to $5.3 million, out of which the bigger portion, which you would not expect, but it is the quotas, around $1.7 million. The land is varying anywhere from 500,000 to a 1.3 mil. Your cost of infrastructure or the bonds, that is varying as well. That is anywhere up to, say, 600 to 1.4 mil. Your quotas are set. That's a set cost. That's gonna be anywhere around 1.7. It could be 1.5, could be 1.6, but the variation is not that big. What would you like to say on that, Archit?
You are hitting the nail right on the head, Sunny. Just the equipment, buying the land, farming equipment. I think you might want to put it around 3 million, 4 million, $5 million, and on top of it, the farmers have to see how many quotas they have to buy. Quotas alone is for just the 80 herd cow. Calculate this. If you have $30,000, and this is, by the way, in Ontario, if you go to Alberta, one of these quotas can cost you almost $60,000-$70,000 because of less population, because of less need. If we just talk about Ontario and Quebec alone here, where the quotas are $30,000, and if I have a herd of 80 cows, how much would I have to spend? How much would that be roughly? 30,000, 200, $2.4 million. $2.4 million, and then $5 million for the land, equipment, leasing, barn, manure, feed, and all the other fun stuff. And after this, you are telling me that I can only produce a certain amount of milk? After this, after almost $10 million investment, you are telling me that I only have a certain amount of limit that I can sell. I cannot overproduce. I can only produce as much as Canadian Dairy Commission is telling me to produce. I can only produce as much as the quota is telling me to produce. These are the issues. Some people might say that okay, the Canada Dairy Supply Management helps the farmer have stable income. Check this out. Would you agree with me, Sunny, that not everybody has $10 million in cash?
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if you do not have $10 million in cash to buy the quotas to land the equipment and everything, that means you would have to go and knock on the door of the bank. Hey, Mr. Bank, can I have a loan of $9 million, $8 million? Hey, Mr. Bank, I have only $500,000. Can you lend me another 8 million, 9 million, $10 million? So now I have a loan, I have a monthly expense that I have to pay in mortgage. Then I have property taxes, I have utility bills, I have employee expenses, your monthly expense to run the operation. So you might say that although the farm, the equipment, everything added up will cost $10 million, but how much are these farmers making every month after all the expenses, after everything is said and done? If somebody is working at a Tim Hortons, somebody is working at a McDonald's, somebody is working at Starbucks, how much are they making at a minimum wage? They are making close to $40,000, $50,000 a year, maybe a little bit less. Would you say is the farmer making after $10 million investment? Would the farmer be making 100,000, 500,000, $1 million a year? No, the farmer is still making less than minimum wage. So they have a $10 million operation, but that is only on paper. What am I taking home every month? The Liberal government back in 1970s, the Pierre Trudeau government put the system in place to protect the farmers, to protect overproduction, so that we don't go into a situation where the farmers are overproducing. They have to spill. They should only focus on domestic production, and domestic production is what everything matters. Look at the U.S. farmers. They have massive operations. Just the Wisconsin state alone in a month is producing more milk than the whole country of Canada. Imagine that. You go to a single family owned farm in Canada and you will find a herd of cattle of 100, maybe 150 or 200. Now go and visit a single family owned farm in California, Wisconsin, Idaho. A single farm would have more than 500 cows, 1,000 cows, 1,500 cows. And guess what? They don't even have to worry about overproduction of milk. They don't have to worry about what's going to happen if I overproduce. Will I have to buy somebody else's permit, somebody else's quota? No, they can just produce more. And what happens if they overproduce? They will export additional revenue for the state, additional revenue for the country. Better trade relations with other countries, less dependence on just one country alone. What will happen if Canada had that ability where they could export more than they had? Is Canada or is Canada not exporting oil, LNG, natural resources? Yes, Canada is, because Canada has the ability to produce more. That is exactly what they are doing, but they are selling it only to the US. In my opinion, I think they should have a better hold of its industry. The country should do a much better job by not just 75% of all the exports are going to the US alone. 75%, guys. 75% of all the exports from Canada are going to US alone. And people are asking, why is Donald Trump taking such a drastic action against Canada? We wanted Donald Trump to win, and he's imposing so many tariffs on Canada. Well, because you are exporting everything from Canada is going to US, he can and he will and he is doing it. What if Canada had other partners beside US? We have a lot of YouTube channels going on that say that you should not have all your investments in just one basket. Why did the country who is supposedly be supposed to be led by all these so-called experts, why did they do exactly the same thing? They invested all their eggs into the same basket. Why did they not spread it around? Did you see trade deal by trade deal by trade deal? The supply management system in Canada is actually getting withered down. Before the CUSMA negotiations in 2018, when NAFTA was replaced by CUSMA, Canada was supposed to import under the old NAFTA arrangement. Canada was supposed to import about 2.59 or somewhere around between 2 and 3%. What happened after the NAFTA negotiations? 3.6% under CUSMA, 3 point something percentage with the Europe trade deal under the CETA, another 3 points under the Trans Pacific trade deal. That's almost 9%. Trade deal by trade deal, the supply management is ultimately getting withered down. When was the last time you saw Mark Carney? When was the last time you saw Pierre Poilievre? When was the last time you got Justin Trudeau coming out and shouting against or for Canada supply management? Why does nobody very well aware about the supply management system? It is working as a cartel in Canada.